It's officially reached this point of desperation in the offseason. I'm talking about the GOAT debate, something that I haven't directly commented on in, well, basically 3 years, because when you make a 2.5 hour documentary that you spend a year on one topic, you kind of feel exhausted of the topic by the end of it. But the reason I am making a video on the GOAT debate is I kind of had a realization recently, which is the more and more I am presented with the question of who I believe the GOAT to be, the less and less confident I get in my answer, which is Michael Jordan. Over the past couple of years, LeBron has creeped closer and closer and made it more difficult for me to make this claim. And looking at it now, I genuinely can't say for sure who I believe the GOAT is. It might be both of them. Let me explain. Before I continue on with this video, if you end up enjoying this video, then please be sure to subscribe. It only makes sense that if you enjoy content, you want to see more of the content, and you can do so through subscribing. Also drop a like. I realize it's annoying that YouTubers ask for it as much as they do, but they do it for a reason. It helps the video perform so much better, so if you drop a like, the video is going to do better. With that said, let's get into it. For me, with the GOAT debate, my answer has pretty much always been Michael Jordan from the day I became an NBA fan till very recently. What really bothers me is when nitwits go and say that I feel that way because I'm a Bulls fan. That's not true. As much as you guys like to make age jokes, I wasn't alive for even a second of the 1990s, so I didn't see Mike win championships in Chicago. I have no nostalgia for it. I have no memory of it. All I have is film that I've watched plenty of, but you're not really going to feel an emotional connection to a player or a championship unless you really watched it happen when it happened, generally speaking. The only time I was alive and Michael Jordan was in the NBA, he was playing in Washington and I was learning my ABCs, or whatever 2-year-olds do. I don't know if ABCs at 2 would make me a stupid 2-year-old or a smart 2-year-old. Whatever they're doing, that's what I was doing. While it might not come off this way, all of my videos are just opinions. Sometimes they're presented in a more argumentative fashion, but depending on the topic, really almost always, I don't really care that much if you disagree with me. I'm just letting you know how I feel. The ultimate conclusion to the GOATmentary, which is how I presume many of you found this channel, or at least many of you decided to actually subscribe to this channel, which again, if you haven't done that, you should. But that is my most viewed video by a country mile, and it's about the GOAT debate. So you've probably heard my opinion about it if you watch that video. But ultimately, my conclusion at the end of a video titled, "Who is the GOAT?" and it's a 2.5 hour long video, my conclusion was I'm not going to give you an answer because it all comes down to personal preference. So take that into consideration whenever you're having this debate, and then even more importantly than that, appreciate greatness, which is still a phrase that I like to throw around all the time, because I hate when I see people tear down other legendary NBA all-time talents in order to prop up another one because they believe they're the GOAT, and they think they have to tear down this opposition in order to make that claim. For one, that's annoying. For two, if your player has a legitimate GOAT case, they don't need you to tear down their competition in order for them to have that case made for them. You just need to get better at arguments than tearing down your competition. Ultimately, the GOAT debate is just a bunch of people talking. Right now, I'm talking to a camera. If you comment something, you virtually talked to me. We're all just talking, in this case on the internet, until one day we... So why don't we make this a respectful talk where we don't have to tear down all-time greats for no reason, and we don't have to yell at each other. I was watching a video the other day about some MJ versus LeBron shit, and there was some podcast debate, and both of these are grown-ass men screaming at each other. Calm the fuck down, it's basketball, dude. I don't understand why it has to be so contentious. The toxicity is not necessary for the discussion, and in fact, it is antithetical to it, presuming that I actually know what antithetical means, and I'm not just saying it to sound smart. Basically, it's a waste of everyone's time, so let's not do it. I realize that was a really long tangent, but I feel it was a necessary one, and honestly, damn near part of the content itself. So, for real, that's how I feel about the GOAT debate at large, and this is just how I feel. So if you don't give a fuck how I feel, then move on with your day. If there was ever a player for me to have a bias towards, it would be LeBron, because I grew up watching LeBron, and I've seen a majority of his career with my own two eyes. Now, I did watch a good percentage of it as an absolute hater when he was on the Miami Heat, but now as a mature adult, I respect LeBron quite a bit, and he's been kind of the focal point of the NBA at large, and the NBA is something that I love, so at the end of the day, I have to appreciate LeBron in some respect or another, with that being the case. But personally, when I was in high school, I spent my summers watching NBA footage because I didn't have friends. So I caught up on pretty much all of NBA history through YouTube videos and whatever the fuck I could find. And after doing all of that, I came to the conclusion that Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time, as previously mentioned. And up until 2016, I actually came to the conclusion that it was Mike and no one else was close. And then, well, you know why I thought that until 2016, because then the 2016 3-1 comeback happened. Then the opinion became Michael Jordan is the GOAT, but if you pick LeBron, I'm not gonna argue with you. That was my genuine take until about 2020. And it wasn't necessarily just the fact that LeBron won his 4th ring or the circumstances in which he did it, because I don't feel strongly one way or the other about the whole bubble thing, so we're not going to waste our time on that. I personally don't think one way or the other. I already said that. Why'd I say it twice? You fucking dimwit. It wasn't the fact that he did it, but the fact that he did it the way that he did it at the age that he did it. Like, it felt like I was watching LeBron in any other year, and he was 35 years old. It was the realization of like, wow, this guy really hasn't aged like at all, and he doesn't really let age affect him. Obviously, he's not at his peak anymore, but the fact that he was arguably the best player in basketball at that age felt ludicrous to me. And then going on even to the last year of his career, not like there's not more going forward, but the most recent one. I understand that the Lakers weren't winning, but averaging 30 points on +4 true shooting at age 37, the second most points per game of his entire career, by the way? What the fuck? How else do you put it besides for that? 37, 3 years older than when Mike hung it up from what was supposed to be the last time, and then again, he ended up being a wizard for no fucking reason. Basically, the point I'm making is, for me, eventually the true awe of the total package that LeBron's resume was creeped up on me. Really conceptualizing everything about his career. 18 consecutive seasons, averaging 25 or more, averaging 27 in 3 different decades, 27 or more, I should say. The longevity kind of just eventually bridged the gap for me. Now, personally for me, I've always been someone who valued peak over longevity. Doesn't mean I don't value longevity in any capacity, because obviously that's my biggest factor in this switch up here. My whole thing with Michael Jordan, and the reason that I thought it was obvious he was the GOAT at one point, was that from a storybook perspective, from a resume perspective, it doesn't get more flawless than his career. There are blunders in there for sure, but that's the best resume that any basketball player has achieved in such a small window. I think if you compare the best 10 years of Mike's career and the best 10 of LeBron, both as basketball players and resume-wise, I think Mike wins that one, even though I do think LeBron gets the best peak year, because I do think that 2013 is better than 1992 or 1988, depending on what you think Mike's peak was. Either way, the longevity has become so overwhelming that, like I said, it bridged the gap. Yes, Michael Jordan's resume is more polished, but LeBron's resume has more stuff in it. And I do think the more polished and the more stuff kind of balances out to where they're equally good resumes. And just using that resume metaphor that people always do, let me just put it this way as simply as possible. Imagine you are working for a company and you are hiring someone for a job. You are presented with 2 resumes. One resume is 1 page long, and there is nothing but impressive shit on that page. And then you get a second resume that's 1 and let's say 3/4 of a page long. And it's not quite as 100% perfect. There are a few more blemishes in there. There's a few more things that you give a little bit of a side eye to. But the fact that there is nearly a whole other page of stuff makes the resumes equally good. That's where I'm at right now. I think both Michael Jordan and LeBron James are the greatest player of all time. both of them. I realize as sports fans, we want a winner or a loser, a definitive answer. We want it to be black or white. And I feel the same way. I actually am frustrated with this being the way that I feel. But ultimately, if you ask me what individual player I believe to be the greatest player of all time, I can't give you an answer right now. I have no clue how this video is going to be received. I'm actually genuinely curious to see. For those who agree with me, which I know is going to be far and few between of you, but let me know that just so I can feel less alone, because I literally Googled like GOAT debate tied. Nothing came up. I'm like, is there seriously no one who's presented that opinion? And then for those who disagree with which is almost all of you, again, as I prefaced with a long ass tangent, just be respectful about it. We're just talking about basketball at the end of the day. It doesn't have to be that serious. Also, I said resume-wise that LeBron has like 1 3/4 of a page. That's because realistically, by the time LeBron's career is done, he's gonna be up to 2 pages, maybe even starting a 3rd page. And at that point, when he's retired, when he's getting towards that point, LeBron might actually overtake Jordan for me and be the GOAT. But we actually have to see him fill out that section of his resume before we're making that determination. Anyways, that's how I feel about the GOAT debate at this point, which is not something I have talked about publicly in much depth in a very long time. I've talked about LeBron's legacy in some capacity in individual videos and Michael Jordan's in some individual videos, and that relates to the topic, but it's been a long time since I've done anything that's LeBron versus Michael Jordan head to head. It's just something that I've been avoiding for the most part. So we'll see how toxic it is. If I remember it correctly, it's a fucking nightmare. But hopefully the comment section is actually not terrible. Anyways, I'm already rambling too much and this video is too long. I apologize for that, Rudy. But shout out to you for editing this video, and goodbye.